Hey, Jay, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Cam? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm just kind of sitting here waiting to start the show.
I think today we should talk about some hot things that are happening in entertainment.
Hot Hollywood stuff. I like it. Entertainment news.
This week we planned on having a guest on, and unfortunately they experienced some technical difficulties, so we had the great idea that we would bring up a couple articles of things that we found that were happening in entertainment and something that we found interesting. So, Cam, you are in control of these things today.
All right. The Aroma Shooter. So
I have an Aroma Shooter. But generally, people in my life
experienced that in a small elevator. I don't.
Yeah, people in my life generally tend for me not to want to use the Aroma Shooter, but I guess in this case, it's a good thing.
From Hyperbeast, standing out amongst the tech advances showcased at CES 2023, Japanese developer Aroma showed off its digital scent technology, Aroma Shooter. Aroma describes itself as developing the finest digital scent products based on the harmony of hardware, software, and material technology. So
see, I'm really interested to see how this works, because in the 1960s, I think it was, well, the original one was like in 1908.
Right.
There was an organization that had tried to create some idea of combining smells so that you actually are smelling the movies. And then they tried it again in the 1960s with what was the name of that? Aroma Smell-O-Vision. Smell-O-Vision. Yes.
Yeah, the Santa Claus movie with Tim Allen, they had some like Christmassy scents come through in the theater. It's been done a few times. And then this also goes back to like aromas in entertainment. When you look at Disneyland and Disney World, they have smellitizers throughout the entire park that shoot out different scents. So it's kind of an extension of that technology, I believe.
Well, I think the major problem with this the Smell-O-Vision earlier was that the smells would linger in the theater, right? And so as they're spraying more smells, they would they would continue to linger, and people started getting sick in the theater, and they started becoming nauseous and ill and throwing up. And so they're like, maybe this stuff's not really working. So
but this one's different. This has aroma cartridges. A solid state cartridge lasts up for 3 months and can be toggled between 100 scents in under 1 second and offer blend scent permutations. So, hey, only $998, and the cartridges are $54. So if you got a home theater, you could probably put this in on your home theater too, if you're really big like that.
That's like a real crowd pleaser. Now, I would want to watch like a Christmas movie, because you could smell, like you said, you could smell the pine, you could smell, but I wouldn't want to watch something like, Slumdog Millionaire, where he's doing the Pooh dive or something like.
But it might be very interesting too, for people like nature documentaries.
Yeah, that's right. Great. As the lion tears apart the corpse of the zebra, the rotting corpse, the vultures swoop in.
The vultures swoop in and tear apart more animals. The gore smells atrocious.
No, anyway.
Oh, that smells atrocious.
Yeah, let's move on to number 2. Avatar.
Yes, number 2.
From Deadline, Avatar, The Way of Water flies past $1.7 billion global. It's now the 7th biggest movie ever. I mean, Puss in Boots is like almost 200 million, but Avatar is 1.7 billion. Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. I know when they were making it, James Cameron said they're gonna have to make $1 billion at least, even just break even on it, and they definitely went past that.
Yeah,
$1.7 billion. I have not seen it yet. I didn't watch it. I watched the first one. I liked the spectacle. The story was okay for me, but I wasn't motivated to go see this film yet. But I keep hearing a lot of good stuff about it. I don't know. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet either. But
wow, there's another. Well, $30 a ticket. There's another. There's another $60 just waiting for us to throw money at it. So
what's behind that? Well, I guess the Disney sequels overtaken 2019's Lion King, which is 1.663 billion, and
wow,
2015's
I saw that one.
World, which is 1.672 billion.
And so, I saw that one.
Whew, man, that's something. But big risk, big investment, and
you know what? I think it's cool to see. Yeah, well, it's interesting to see how science fiction movies. When I was growing up, there wasn't as much sci-fi, and sci-fi was generally really campy and was never really taken seriously at all. But if you look at most of the films now are some form of sci-fi or fantasy that are topping the box office, and it's being taken far more seriously. I love fantasy because it really lets you explore humanity in a way that's almost less offensive, in a sense. Like, you can just put it in space or put it somewhere else, and you can put characters in situations, and everyone can enjoy the story and take something away from it without it necessarily preaching to you or anything. You can generally just enjoy it. So I think that's what makes those stories successful. And I think the platform is already set up that way, so that when people add their own, I guess, sort of preachiness to it, it almost takes away from the power of the story. So that's the danger, I guess, in anything, is when it becomes more of an EPK or like a promo spot instead of a story, and finding the balance between having an idea that you want to share and
the message behind
the message.
3. Australian Elvis Festival, still fantastic after 30
years. Have you been to the Elvis Australian Film Festival?
Not the Australian one.
I think that sounds like something Entertainment Dudes needs to do next year, because what was it, 10,000 Elvises that are all there in this massive
10,000
festival?
Elvises can't be wrong.
Or can they? One Elvis was wrong sometimes. What's your favorite Elvis song? What's your favorite Elvis song?
For I can't help falling in love with you. Yeah,
that's a good song. That's a good one.
That's a really good song. So,
you know what song? Did you ever hear his "In the Ghetto"?
Hundreds.
In the ghetto. Yeah. That's a sad song. Gosh, it's like so. It's sad.
So my favorite was the one where he was laughing, and Elvis, when he would sing on stage, sometimes he would change the lyrics just because he could. And
on stage,
he would just sing, and he changed one line to "Do you stare at his bald head and wish he had hair?" And right in the front was a guy that took his toupee off, like right as he sang that, and Elvis lost it, and he was like laughing through the entire rest of the song.
So that's so freaking funny.
We'll link to that in the description, the actual performance. It's you got to catch it out. The audience.
Yes, and if you want to go to the Australian Film Festival, we'll send a link to that so you can actually.
That's right. Hundreds of Elvis Presley impersonators parade down Main Street of Parks as the Australian country town celebrated 30 years hosting an Elvis tribute gala that has become one of the country's biggest festivals. "It's fantastic," said Bob Steele, who founded the festival with his wife Anne after a dinner party where guests ended up singing Elvis songs long into the night. Fancy getting to 30 years with a festival. We're just so pleased with it. And the festival, 350 kilometers northwest of Sydney, takes place each year in early January with some 24,000 fans descending on the town, normally home to about 14,000. In addition to Elvis tribute acts, the extravaganza, timed to coincide with the birthday of the king, includes Elvis art and photo exhibitions, rock and roll dance lessons, and Elvis trivia nights. That's
so. I wonder
cool.
I wonder if Elvis is actually going to be there. I mean, if I was Elvis and I was hiding in plain sight, I would go to Elvis impersonation festivals. And so I bet Elvis might actually be there, because I don't know. Is he really dead?
I don't know. His tomb is misspelled. Conspiracy or not. 4. Number 4. Oh, we can't get enough of James Cameron, can we? He was what, number 2, and now number 4. The Terminator Re-Launch. James Cameron says another film is in discussion, but nothing has been decided yet. One of my favorite Terminator stories was around the first Terminator, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. The movie had not been out yet, and Arnold was dressed up in full Terminator gear with like half his face blown out, and they decided to go across town to lunch.
He went down Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, it was so crazy. I love it. But James Cameron revealed on the Smartless podcast that discussions are taking place about him continuing the long-running action franchise, with kicked off in 1984 on a high, but it's since experienced one box office flop, Terminator Genesis, after another, Terminator Dark Fate. I think I overall still love the concept and the series and all the main characters. So I think, what do you think a new Terminator film would do? Would it
I don't, what would they have to do differently? I think one thing that made the originals so, I guess, powerful and in terms of our mind is, number one, we never seen anything like it before, and number two, there's a real fear or terror behind the Terminators. Like, they were scary and they were unstoppable. And the newer movies, I'd seen it, so it wasn't as scary for me. It wasn't as terrifying. So, you get the idea. In the end, they're gonna win. They're gonna fight the Terminator. He's gonna get killed. Like, what else can you do? Like, okay, another one where the Terminators are after them, and there's just different people they're after. So, what do you have to do to make a franchise like that something that's interesting, new? We haven't seen it before, and bring back the original thrill of when you first discover Terminator. There's going to be a lot of people who have never seen Terminator, younger people that might be a first for them. So I think if they could go a little bit darker with it, a little more personal with the character. And I think if you create a little more isolated feel, almost like a trapped thing, like in a certain area where they can't escape and they're forced to face, have to try to face him in this, in a particular, like a small confined area, and bringing in a sense, because they can always they run and escape, run and run and run and run and run. But what if you can't run? What if you don't have that on? What if it's on a space station and you can't run?
Ooh, space station. I like that one.
Yeah. And you can't run. Yeah, so it's like Alien, but it's like Aliens, but but Terminator. So
there's some contention going on though. Director Tim Miller was supposed to be the one to revive this, but apparently Tim Miller doesn't necessarily want to have Schwarzenegger back, and Cameron is refusing to make it without Schwarzenegger.
Oh, yeah, that creates that's a real problem.
I think a Terminator movie, you almost have to have Schwarzenegger. I mean, then it becomes it was like the vacation movies. And they did one without, one of the originals, not the reboot, but one of the originals they did without Chevy Chase. And it was just Cousin Eddie, and it just doesn't work. You got a Terminator film, I think you need the Terminator in it. So
yeah, because some franchises are built on the character, and some are built in the area. Like Lord of the Rings, you have multiple characters that you could focus on. So, and I think they tried a couple of those, but we'll see.
Our fellow YouTubers, the Corridor crew, they're amazing visual effects artists, and they actually recreated some special effects from one of the Terminator movies. Remember the Terminator that was the liquid metal and could like walk through things?
Oh, yes.
Could reform. Yeah, they recreated that effect of walking through the prison bars. So check that out. We've got that link below as well. The Corridor crew. I don't know what to think about this. Winnie the Pooh horror movie is getting a theatrical release.
Wait a minute. When is that from?
Okay, this is not Disney, obviously.
Disney's remake of Winnie the Pooh.
Okay, so Winnie is now in public domain, which means
wait a minute, didn't they already do this?
Anything to it. Yeah, this thing's been shot. There's a trailer out. I mean, it's getting released on February 15th.
A one-day release.
So, and then probably online somewhere. Yeah, they're doing the one-day release so that it'll be eligible for awards. So that's
I'm wondering what
maybe the Honey Award.
I don't know. It just seems like everything that is, I don't know. It was just good and wholesome, the Winnie the Pooh things. It's like taking something that seemed to be wholesome and good, and then I guess there's always a dark side
back there. That looks like the Disney version of Winnie the Pooh. Are they going to run into issues with that, or are they going to say it's a parody?
Parody, probably. Well, what's interesting too is like, okay, with things that are public domain, right? In the United States, public domain law is a lot different. And so, what is public domain, and when does a book become public domain? And it's hard to say. Internationally, it's different. Internationally, it's generally 50 years to 70 years from when the project was first released. And for the United States, it's from the death of the author plus 50.
Plus 50 years.
Yeah, right. So Winnie the Pooh is now in public domain. So you no longer need to go back to the copyright to use it. So you can use now Disney's Winnie the Pooh.
Right.
Like you said, if you're going to use that, that's theirs. So if you're going to try to run around and use Disney's Winnie the Pooh, you're going to get in trouble because that's Disney's and they created it later. But the original art and the original story are now public domain.
But it's interesting. There are some old Looney Tunes cartoons that were done by Warner Brothers and Schlesinger Studios that are in the public domain now. So there are actually some forms of earlier forms of Bugs Bunny, etc., that are actually in public domain. Some of the earlier drawings of him.
What would happen if you just created a Bugs Bunny based on the early one and you released it in the theater? Like, what would happen?
I don't know. I'm sure there would be a
the story would be very interesting about like a couple of filmmakers that decide they're going to make this, and then they go up against the big guy and they end up winning in the end. You know, their Bugs Bunny wins.
What's up, Jack? Yeah, you want to do it? We can do it. Oh my gosh.
What about if we do a Bugs Bunny versus Winnie the Pooh?
Ooh, I like it. Let's talk after the show.
We'll talk.
Anyway, yeah, this has been our top 5 news-related things of entertainment. And hopefully we will get our guests back next week or the week after. Scott and Miranda Parkin, very prolific voice actors, artists working on a very cool cartoon coming up called The Comet Casino. So,
it looks great.
Yeah,
it looks really great.
It really does look fun. And some really top A-list voice actors are on the pilot and the animatic, and it's going to be a really cool show. But
and also coming up, we've got Janet from Janet's Planet.
Oh, yes, Janet's
she's
Planet.
been 30 years or so. She's been running with a kids program out of Nashville, Tennessee. She is insanely awesome.
Right.
And we're really excited about having her on the show. And that's later this month as well. So we got some great guests coming up. You don't want to miss it. Entertainment Dudes is kicking off in full swing this year. We're going to be taking you out on locations. We're going to have lots of new guests and, of course, our top 5s. So thanks for joining Entertainment Dudes, and we'll catch you next week.
All right. Like and subscribe.
You better do it.
Yes, they better. And click on some videos, too.
Yeah, click some of these, because
these are
you're going to want to keep following the show.
Or you can click on the logo and subscribe. That's always cool as well.
I'd be happy.
Or find us on Twitter at ENTMT Dudes.
Yeah, watch.entertainmentdudes.com.